straight to my next guest and talk about the BBC. God, they're normally talking about themselves, aren't they? Well, they certainly were yesterday. BBC chiefs, including Samir Shah, the BBC chairman, were appearing before MPs in the Culture Select Committee yesterday to answer questions about all these allegations of bias and what the heck is going on, the chaotic BBC. And 3 hours later, some of us were still awake, but most of those who'd walked away from watching it. But I wondered if Rebecca Ryan suffered through all 3 hours. She's campaign director at Defund the BBC. Rebecca, did you manage to go through all 3 hours?
I didn't watch all 3 hours, no.
So even you. And you're sodding obsessed with the BBC, and you didn't manage it. I mean, I've got to be honest with you. I mean, they had Michael Prescott, who was the whistleblower, supposedly, who even he said, oh, well, I don't think it's an institutionalised biased organisation. We had Sir Robbie Gibb, who apparently is an appalling human being because he was appointed by the Tories. It's fine when Labour appoints someone, but most of it was Samir Shah, the BBC chairman, saying he wouldn't resign and defending the BBC. I've got to be honest, I've never seen anybody who was less impressive than that man. How on earth he got that job and is remaining in that job is an absolute miracle, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's just absolute chaos and absolute, like, rats fighting in a sack, really, at the BBC at the moment. And they're just desperately trying to sort of search for some way out of this complete disaster that they find themselves in, with President Trump threatening to sue them and what you. And there's just no explanation for what they've done, and yet they're trying desperately to sort of say, oh, all of this good work that Tim Davie did, and we didn't, we edited the video to make it look like Trump, but actually it wasn't really about that.
There was a plausible explanation for it. But what was that mean? Samir Shah said he basically begged Tim Davie not to resign as Director General. I mean, that's a poor judgment on his part already, isn't it?
Absolutely, exactly. And then we have them saying that they took so long to apologise because they couldn't decide what they were apologising for. I mean, that's a 5-minute meeting, isn't it? If they've got to look at that footage and then come out.
We did something that was editorially and journalistically completely ethically unacceptable. Yeah, I'm thinking that's what you'd apologise for. Bearing in mind, of course, on the Sunday they already had the threat of legal action from Donald Trump, which we didn't know about for a few days. But again, they should have made that public. It's a public organisation. We're going to end up footing the bill for the lawyers, or a payout, or whatever happens. But I find it extraordinary that they were saying, to a man and a woman, this is not a politically biased organisation, and everybody there was saying, no, I love the BBC, it's wonderful. It was fascinating how many of the MPs, the Labour MPs, thought it was a real gotcha, like, oh, but you're friends with Robbie Gibb, aren't you? Or you're friends. I mean, the idea of all these people who've been political journalists and worked at the BBC and politicians didn't know each other and don't all go to each other's dinner parties. Who is she kidding, for goodness sake? That's how they all get the jobs. I mean, that's the thing. It's that cosy world. But I don't see how, after that report and after all we know and all the reports on Gaza or on Trump, we're going back to Brexit, all their coverage, trans stuff, how could they possibly not know that they are institutionally biased? And isn't that part of the problem? They genuinely, doesn't matter how much evidence is in front of them, they don't get it.
Absolutely. And that's, as you were saying there, the kind of trying to use Robbie Gibb as this sort of lightning rod to distract away from this immense amount of chaos that they are being buried under. It's just ridiculous. He's like one member of the board, and he worked for Theresa May. I mean, she's.
But he's an open. It's an open thing. He's a political appointee in the same way that James Pennell, who'd been a literal cultural secretary for the Labour Party in the cabinet, was a political appointee.
Exactly. And so to turn around and sort of say that he is the cause of all this problem, and it was actually his fault that these people resigned, and taking away from the fact that they absolutely should have resigned. If they sat there and said, this video is fine, they literally spliced together two parts of a speech that are so far apart to make it look like he was inciting violence.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the least of their acts of immoral acts in the last few years. But it was really interesting that Samir Shah said he's not resigning as chairman because he can't be out without a director general and a chairman at the same time. I'm thinking, by the looks of it, the utter chaos at the BBC, I don't think anyone would notice. They're without both forever.
Exactly. Who's going to apply for that job, really? I mean, this is really the beginning.
I'll do it. I'll do it. I can have the BBC sorted out, and I can have it politically neutral. I'm not saying it, but I don't want it to be biased to my political views. I can have it politically neutral within a week. It would involve a heck of a lot of sackings.
You'd got the whole thing, though, I think, wouldn't you? And it would take a long time to try and replace them all. But yeah, absolutely. I think the thing, as you've said, it comes back to the fact that the British people are having to pay for this, if they watch any live broadcast TV whatsoever. And we're just seeing an absolute mess play out. We've got the the elected leader of our closest ally on a global scale saying, I'm going to sue you. You know, that's outrageous. And it's the British people that are having to pay for it.
Yeah. And didn't we have, by the way, didn't we have a woman who was looking after her son with a brain injury in hospital and didn't pay her BBC licence fee and is basically, you know, been taken to court? And not the first time, won't be the last time. British public have had enough of it. And is it something like 1 in 8 people don't no longer pay their licence fee even though they carry on watching television?
Exactly, absolutely. And actually say there, it's mainly women and vulnerable people who are being prosecuted by the BBC. It's a huge amount of people. You know, it's only second only to car crimes that are brought through the courts for non-payment of the BBC licence. In this day and age, it's just not acceptable to the BBC to be bullying people on the doorsteps.
I have a funny feeling more and more people are going to come over to your argument. I'd like the BBC to stay, but just do the job properly. But Rebecca, it seems to me at this point, you know, I don't even know if they would know how to do that anymore. Rebecca Ryan, who bravely made it through most, but not all, because, wow, she's got a life and wanted to maintain her consciousness. Defund the BBC. Thank you very much indeed. 10:50.